he's still dead, and Sam's gonna have to.
But it's easier to have stick bits back together than snap your fingers and okay, we're back.
Like we're Owen.
Well, we saw Buffy, and how many times did Buffy come back to life? I can probably work a spell.
She's been there like
Yeah, but you saw how it affected her. She'd been in the ground for however long. Zip, Willow does a spell, and she gets her body back. And it undecomposes. I don't know if there's a word for that. And then she had to crawl her way out of, her coffin. So that's, they could go that route. We do magic on our show.
Already remained.
Yeah. We'll go over there. I have to get him right off.
Like
And a rock from the ceiling.
Anything else?
Nothing will actually happen. I'm trying to visualize.
We need one of those, what are those symbols from Hell House, where you look at it and you imagine it?
Toba.
oh.
Dude, yeah, we should.
You need that.
Naked sigils. Yay!
What an opportunity.
Well, he's got the pole.
But that's them coming out as demons. They don't have their own body. We need to get Dean back into his own body.
Oh, that's right.
I think Sam just carried him around in a jar for a while, so like got in a good body. I have essence of Dean in a mason jar.
It's Dean in a can.
Dean in a can. I like that.
Matt, let me ask you this. Okay, I think we're all in agreement that yes, Dean is coming back from hell. We don't know in what shape he's going to be emotionally, and one of the more interesting things is how Dean was such a very hard person in season 3. Are we going to see a Dean who's broken? Are we going to see a Dean who is going to internalize and compartmentalize even more than ever?
It better not be like in my time of dying when you forget.
I would love to see Sam not getting Dean out of hell, not knowing why Dean's back, and there being a big question mark, just as much as Dean had about Sam having killed him in season 2. And then seeing Dean kind of rebuild himself, and maybe build himself a little bit better this time, because he's not being responsible to take care of Sam. He's not having that responsibility. So I'm not saying it's possible, but it would be really interesting from a character perspective to see if you couldn't, I don't want to say make it a little different, but improve upon what is already perfection. And whatever. I'm not upfront about my shallowness, but because I think that you can, there's no growth for Dean. He's sort of done. You know what I mean? As a character, what walls can you knock down? What can you do with him without having to do something that's game-changing? And if you change the game this much, what can you do with him now? What avenues does it open? Where would you like to see the character go? I mean, do you want him to go, you know what, I have given all, I've been to hell. You know what, kids, I'm done. I'm going to go back to Ben and, what's your name, Lisa? I'm going to go get bendy with Gummy Girl. So, check it out later. Or will he continue that road and be even more committed because he's seen what hell is? Well, and be even more resolved to fight the good fight.
How much resentment would you have for Sam? Because Sam didn't save him. I'm sure that's easy to say, yeah, don't save me because I don't want you, tapping into that. But once you've been to hell, and you didn't say that before you've been there. But once you've been there,
now you've got a funny show in their relationship.
He should have saved me. I did.
Yeah, the last thing we see is him calling for Sam.
Yeah.
He wants Sam to save him now.
So now you've got resentment between brothers.
Hey, change my mind, save me! Seriously, whatever you need to do.
Because he's already pissed at Sam because of shooting him in, full on from Asylum. That they never really, they did what they didn't talk about it. But I'm sure somewhere, look at how much pent-up rage he had. He was talking to the demon about John. I mean, can you imagine if he had that conversation about Sam and how I gave up this, I didn't have a life, I took care of Sam, I was always there for Sam. And the one time I needed Sam to be there for me, he failed. Where does that take the character? Where does that take that relationship? Because I have really, this is really bad, but I've always wanted to see them just have Sam versus Dean, full on, just wail on each other for the gold cup. It's wrong, but I'm because they're so different. And and there's such different fighting styles, and they have different, and how they would get there emotionally, and for what reasoning they would get to that point is really intriguing. Like how quick he would get Dean to the point that he would fight Sam. I can see him getting Sam to fight Dean, because we've already seen how easily and how much rage Sam has, and he's impressed by all the things that's happened to him. Could he still get there that quickly? I don't know. But how could you break Dean in a way that would make him turn against Sam? Because he does have that caretaker mentality. How hard would you have to twist and break him to the point that you would fight with basically your child? I mean, you would go to the point where you would be resolved to end them just for the greater good. You know, where do you go with that? And could you go there with these two guys?
And yet, the show has shown us that the only times that Sam has physically hurt Dean, he's been possessed or under the influence of somebody. The 2 times that Dean has punched Sam, he's just been pissed off.
So the only way you would get Sam or Dean to want to fight Sam in a real physical, like to the ground fight would be if Dean thought that he had to stop Sam from hurting himself. If he thought that Sam was on a course, on a path that was going to lead Sam to a bad end, then Dean would have to step in and save Sam from himself. I think that is the only way you would get Sam.
And yet, I would counter that with look at season 2 when he was charged with if you can't turn him or protect him, you're going to kill him. And Dean was never able to take that step, even born under a bad sign. After all that, he knew, he knew it was a demon order. But the fact of the matter is, he was never willing to concede for a second that. Shut up.
No, I mean, you have that the end of the line. I mean, Sam's about to destroy the world. He's about to push the red button.
I'm not sure Dean would ever. I don't know if Dean would do that. And the Dean that we had now, would Ben to Hell Dean maybe do it? I don't know that I would. I don't know. I don't know if Dean could break away from that ingrained taking care of Sam mentality.
But see, that's also counteracted with his all supernatural beings are evil, and so
but he doesn't believe that anymore. But if he comes back, so does he understand
that's awesome. That's awesome. That I think is going to be really cool because he's always had this whole no black, no gray area, all black and white. There's humans and there's evil, and so now if he's been to hell and he's slightly demonic, that's something else that he has to counteract.
But what about season 2 when you do see, what about Patricia Helfer and Roadkill? What about Lenore the vampire? I mean, it seems like Dean, that was being challenged in Dean's mentality and he was trying to adapt to that. I don't know that he still feels that way. You know, I don't know that maybe season 1 Dean, early season 2 Dean, but not end of season 3.
What about the way that he reacts to Sam wanting to use his powers at the end of season 3? I mean, he still views those powers as
Because he thinks they come from his angel, because he believes they come from his angel.
Well, look at like Casey. You don't want to kill Casey.
That's because she had it right.